Okay, so one of the things that I'm going to go through tonight is we're going to try an experiment, right? If everyone expects the same thing, something else happens, okay? And I'm going to try to carry that theme through the presentation. So let's start with this. Barron's, obviously the most reputable newspaper, periodical for legacy markets, thinks that the winner of the election is Jerome Powell. Now, on one hand, they have a point. Powell has got the power to keep the economy going or not going. And it's been that way with the Fed for quite some time. Okay. The question for election night is not who is the president. Okay. The real question people should be asking is that once the president takes office, whoever it is, can Powell carry the burden of keeping everything going if there's a virus, social disorder, a massive change in policy? Okay. That's a lot of pressure for one guy. Cryptocurrency folks out there, that's a lot of pressure for one guy. Okay. So my answer to can this guy hold it all up on his own? I wish him well, but the answer is no. And I think that is pro crypto. Now, let's talk about what's going on in the market tonight. You've heard PayPal, MicroStrategy, Winklevoss, a lot of these players want to get in Bitcoin. No, not Bitcoin futures, but they want Bitcoin. Now, one of the ways they get Bitcoin is through a mechanism. It is a futures contract made by Bakkt, okay, where you can actually take physical delivery of Bitcoin just like you bought it on Binance or from an OTC dealer or Coinbase. And what we've seen headed into this election is right over here, this huge explosion in volume in backed Bitcoin options. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's like a big MMA fight, right? Like all the buyers, all the sellers, all the bulls, all the bears, all of a sudden just decided to pile in and make Bitcoin bets. Now, one theory that I have is that companies that have got to have Bitcoin on their balance sheet now that MicroStrategy and PayPal are in, they've purchased options that will allow them to take delivery of Bitcoin if it moons, but they'll only lose a small amount if Bitcoin falls out of bed tonight. Okay. So that's a pretty big mouthful, I know, but it means that there are buyers out there in crypto. Like fear of holding off is real. Okay. So if a move gets going on the upside, it can really accelerate. Okay. So I know it's a big if, but I think if it gets going, it can really move. Now, let's be fair and balanced, right? I found out tonight through Twitter that there's a huge shipment of Bitcoin to exchanges today. Okay. So some huge player, some whale, I don't know, there are rumors of a hack. I don't know, but somebody shipped a ton of Bitcoin to an exchange. Now, what could that mean? Well, it could mean that, the big players are going to do this huge pump and then they're going to sell and unload it. That's the standard meaning behind these things. Okay. I don't know what it means, but I do know that if they ship this stuff to an exchange and the corporations take it from them, okay, it may take the market 1 or 2 days to process it. But if they take it from them, the move that can happen on the upside can be a lot bigger than you think. Okay. Now, of course, because we're in crypto, we know that somebody could always unload on it and it could go to 0 or 7,000. Okay. Been there, done that. You don't need to tune in to us to know that or hear that because it could happen. It happens all the time. My thinking is, well, what could be different? And this idea of big buyers and big sellers meeting and the buyers winning is a strategy to consider. Okay, now let's talk about Ethereum. Okay, something really interesting that I saw tonight through a friend was that there's something on GitHub that says, hey, ETH 2.0 is coming soon. Now, I'm not a GitHub expert, but I do like an ETH positive catalyst showing up on election night. Now, let's go to a chart. Super busy chart. It's Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Okay. Who's the king, right? And one thing you'll notice is that the rate for Ethereum versus Bitcoin has kind of just been going sideways for a while. Actually, all through the DeFi boom, it's kind of gone back to where it started. Wouldn't it be funny if tonight was the night that Ethereum took the baton from Bitcoin and started running on the upside? Now, it would be not so funny for crypto people if Ethereum took the baton and continued to dump like it did 2 or 3 days ago. My charts show that, the market is at a huge inflection point, right? Right over here by the C, where you see the arrow, okay? That's a support point for Ether, okay? And if it holds and Ether does okay versus Bitcoin, I've got analysis that says ETH could take off, right? That if ETH breaks can actually break 400, again, like with the other examples, that it could just run. Okay. All right. So who wants who to win? Right. Let's get to the point. It's an election. We're going to have to say something about it, right? Okay. Bitcoin traders want the US dollar down. Now, short US dollar has been the favorite position of every hedge fund all year. So naturally, as the big event approaches, the dollar has actually been rising as people get pressured out of positions because they're like, oh no, what happens if I get stopped out? Or what happens if the dollar rises? Okay. That said, a dollar decline after the election would probably cause Bitcoin to skyrocket. Okay. Corporate players who delayed would probably have to rush in. Now, why is Biden better for Bitcoin? Okay. Well, Biden's doing things with taxes and changing our social attitudes towards wealth, right? That he could actually drive money away. And the US needs that money to fund its deficits. So I'll spare you having to read the economics book. But what these guys want to do, they want to help people. Of course they do, right? But that could have some consequences and it could drive the dollar lower. So you saw it tonight when Bitcoin hit 14K, right? When the TV news says, hey, looks like Joe Biden's going to do well, Bitcoin went straight up. Okay. Now, our audience is primarily interested, okay, in altcoins. Okay. Now, one of the things that I think is really important to note is that altcoins are really sensitive to a rising dollar. Okay. So when altcoin traders this week have probably been like, what is going on? Why is everything dumping like 5-10% at a time? ETH printed 370. Are you kidding? What is up with that? Okay. Well, let me tell you. Altcoins are sensitive to a rising dollar. Okay. And the dollar and interest rates rose this week. Okay. Now, Trump is probably good for the dollar. Okay. Because if he keeps taxes low, then money will continue to flow to America. And if there's distress in Europe over the virus, more money could come to America. Okay. Altcoins may be afraid of that. They're afraid of the dollar going up. So what did everyone do? They panicked. They sold out of their positions. They shorted futures as a hedge. They lost it. right? They're like, oh my God, this has been going down for 2 months and I can't handle it going down anymore. And everyone just, did one big heave. Now, why am I telling you this? Well, if Trump wins and the dollar goes up, I think the dollar rally will be short-lived. It could be huge. It could go on for 2 days, but I don't think it's going to last, right? Because I think there are other factors that are going to drive the dollar down. Okay. So this idea that Trump and the dollar going up maintains American exceptionalism, right? That means everyone wants to put their money in America. Now, that may be true, but I don't think that's a reason to give up on crypto. Matter of fact, I think it's a reason, if there's a big heave lower in crypto, it's to grab some, hope the bulls can turn it around, and then go with that breakout. Okay. So I think a sharp drop in altcoins on a Trump win is a significant buying opportunity. All right. So Biden is probably straight up. Trump is probably down, stable, then up. Okay. And then, of course, I always acknowledge there is a situation where, all risk assets crater, stocks, crypto, whatever. Okay. But if we're just talking crypto and the election, this is how I'm breaking it down. It comes down to the dollar. All right. Let's talk more about alts. Total crypto market cap. Okay. Excluding Bitcoin. Now, what we've seen is that mainly because Ether's been in a range and Chainlink has been stable, that, the big altcoins have held together, even though the small ones have fallen apart. But what that's created is kind of like this wind-up process in the whole alt universe, Ether in particular, right? Wind it up, wind it up, wind it up, wind it up. Okay, my work shows that alt market cap could take off to 200 billion. Okay, because as you can see right over here, there's a lot of volume being built up, and that's this process where they load up the spring. Okay, so even though altcoins have gotten hammered, even though people may be depressed or scared, there may be a huge opportunity. Matter of fact, it could be a historic opportunity. And let me remind you of this. The night Trump got elected, right? Stocks were down like 5%. They're like, oh my God, no one's ever going to print money. No one's ever going to do stimulus. He won't cooperate with the Fed. There was this whole narrative that he was anti-stock market, anti-QE. Was any of that correct? Matter of fact, it was not only not correct, the opposite was true. This is something to keep in mind if you see crypto get hammered like the other day. Okay. Now, let's look at ETH basically on a daily chart. Okay. It's not a lot of excitement, but I'm watching the 386 level over here on the corner. Okay. I think once the dust settles, if ETH is above 386, then ETH can take off. Conversely, if ETH can't hold 386, then the alt universe is subject to another flush. Okay. You want to have capital available and you want to be as bold as you can. You don't want to catch the falling knife, but something to keep in mind. All right. Altcoins, when they topped, they went up like 25% and then they stopped. The same thing could happen on the downside. You could see a small coin, flash crash and then have them come back. Now, stocks. Everybody's talking about, what's going to happen to stocks or bonds, and everybody in each market thinks the election doesn't matter for that market. So if you ask a crypto guy who's going to win the election, the crypto guy goes, well, I don't care who wins the election. Crypto's going up anyway. And the stocks guys and the bond guys, they all say the same thing. And of course, that's wrong, right? The election, it does matter. It matters when you get in and when you get out. Now, for stocks don't trade very well, right? FANG stocks have not been doing anything good after releasing earnings. This is the S&P. it's at resistance. Do stocks look like they're going to fall apart? Not really, because I think that's the Fed is going to be there, particularly if there's social disorder, right? The Fed is not going to let the world burn tonight, okay? And of course, since we're coming to you from Houston, Texas, and Ian will tell you at the end of the show that the moon is not the limit. We have a drawing of Mission Control in Houston with the Token Metrics logo going into outer space. Okay. Just to keep everybody's spirits up, because anything can happen in crypto. So that's kind of the rundown.
All right. Wow, that was amazing. Thank you, Bill. So let us know what you think down in the comments below. Let's take a look and see what the audience has to say.